Today for Devotions with Daniella, we are reading from the first book of Daniella, Uncultured, about growing up in the children of God and going into the cult of the U.S. Army. This is the chapter, Drink the Kool-Aid. We are still in basic training because it's a very long chapter. Basic training is more of a shotgun blast of experiences than actual training in warfighting. The goal is culture shock and mental programming. Soldiers learn everything else for their job in schools or at their unit. Basic training also introduces all the stuff that recruiters would never tell prospective enlistees. For instance, the Army's belief that every soldier should know what it's like to be punched in the face. So one day, in what they call the clinch drill, they line everyone up and punch them in the face. You pass the test by pinning the drill sergeant before they can knock you out, or, as in my case, after they break your nose. Every single day of basic training, we got up before dawn and waited on our feet, hour after hour, trying to stay awake. Physical training took place before dawn in the last bit of South Carolina's fading cool air that we wouldn't see again until after 10 p.m. Then there was all the marching, so much marching, while singing a weird sort of tune called a cadence. The one in charge creates a steady rhythm with a hard beat that makes it easier for everyone to stay in step, because the military knows how to stay in step when they want to. They just don't do it for dictator parades. It seems innocent enough, like the nonsense songs children sing while jumping rope. But I remembered marching down hallways at midnight to the beat of "Onward, Christian Soldiers." Sorry for triggering you all. And saw it for what it really was, a highly effective programming tool, rhythmic, repetitive, something we learned by heart, something we'd parrot without thinking or questioning. Take a bunch of young adults from all over the country, throw them together in isolation but without privacy, control their food and elimination habits, because cult leaders always want to control the bathroom, add sleep deprivation, and march them for long distances until their minds are as exhausted as their bodies, while chanting things like, "When my right foot hits the ground, all I hear is that killing sound." We taunted other units, sometimes calling individuals out by name, constructing an us versus them mentality to help us bond, to feel like one team with a common enemy, the other guys. There were a lot of cadences about raping, too. I bet those ones are all going to come back. They also programmed hierarchy. The most famous cadence is, "I want to be an airborne ranger," sung in many different variations. Trainees at Fort Jackson become paper pushers, office workers, intelligence analysts, mechanics, cooks, or other support roles. None of us are set to become airborne rangers. But from the first day of Army training, we're taught to revere rangers as the highest among us, those whose mission is to capture or kill bad guys. That's what we're all supposed to desire. For men, it means one of the hardest career paths in the service. For women, back then, impossible. Maybe soon to be again. Trainees are chosen to call cadence regardless of their singing ability, which doesn't really matter as the call is more of a hoarse yell. As the only two female officer candidates in our class, Daniella and I were chosen all the time. 12 weeks after basic training, upon completion of the officer program, we were going to outrank all the drill sergeants, so they liked to pick on us in preparation for leadership roles. The drill sergeants would also call us LT, the diminutive nickname for lieutenant used when soldiers didn't want to pay too much respect to a brand new officer, whenever we did something wrong. Of course, we weren't officers yet, far from it, but the language was their way of making us feel singled out and alone, different from the group. Another way to break us down even faster and make us want to do everything we could to earn the right to belong. 5 weeks in was grenade throwing day. After standing in lines to file into the chow hall, shoving as much breakfast as we could down our gullets in the allotted 3 minutes, we changed into our uniforms, put on our bulletproof vests and heavy gear, picked up our rifles, and assembled into a line to march. That day, after a march of what seemed like several miles according to the blisters on the backs of my heels, we got to the grenade training area. Hours and hours of bonus waiting in the field's bleachers followed. While books weren't allowed, photos were. I carried mine with me everywhere, in the leg pocket of my uniform. Whenever I got a chance, I would look at pictures, making up stories in my head of my parents, my siblings, and my friends from college. The relationships I wished I had, open and honest, not the ones I actually had. Their absence somehow made them different people, made me love them more. The one of Dad at my wedding, dressed up in a tuxedo in a James Bond pose, complete with finger guns and dark sunglasses, always made me smile. Looking at him preserved in that picture, two-dimensional and unmoving, I only had to think of how funny he was, or how he gave great hugs. I would never think about the fact that I barely knew him, even though I'd lived in the same commune as him for more than 10 years. I would stare at my wedding photos with Jeff and tell myself that I was in love with him, not just stuck. All I saw in the photos of college friends were the smiles and laughter, not the loneliness I felt through those years. After making us wait around for what seemed like hours, the drill sergeants came back and started to give us the range safety brief. Grenade throwing day meant we would be playing with live grenades. But first, practice, though not as much as I expected. It takes hours and hours to get 160 odd people through the practice of throwing even one fake grenade. After only one practice round each, it was time for the real thing. This is it, I thought. This was my moment to prove myself as one of the strongest girls in the class. A girl about to be an officer. I'd been training with imaginary explosives and warfare my whole life. This will be easy, I thought. Soldier after soldier stepped up to the area, a huge sandy rectangle with a small square wall of sandbags to hide inside. To throw a grenade, we were supposed to pull the tab and toss it, releasing the spoon, 10 seconds max, and then duck hard down below the sandbag wall. The line proceeded with precision as each soldier performed the duty, the air filled with the satisfying smell of gunpowder. Drill Sergeant McCoy, a black man at least 6'4", stood on the platform, barking orders. He had a loud yelling voice, but also a huge smile and a mouthful of gold teeth that I don't believe ever met the Army grooming standards. Mostly, he was a teddy bear, unless someone made him really angry. At my turn, I stepped up, feeling strong, maybe a bit overconfident, and picked up my grenade. I got into the position we had practiced and pulled the tab. And that's when I froze, with a live bomb in my hands. The smell of gunpowder choked me, invading my lungs with a searing burn. I couldn't breathe. My arms felt as heavy as lead, and there was no way I was ever going to be able to move them. Drill Sergeant McCoy stared at me, his eyes popping out in anger at my failure. But then it hit me. It wasn't anger, it was fear. He was standing next to an unstable soldier with an unstable live bomb. Poole, throw the fucking grenade. What the fuck are you fucking doing? Time ticked. I couldn't hold the spoon pressed down forever. I didn't want to die, but I couldn't move my arm, no matter how much the drill sergeant yelled. My fingers seared with pain as he wrenched them open, pulling the grenade from my hand and releasing the spoon, starting the clock. 5 seconds down, 5 seconds to go until we both lost some limbs, at the very least. With one fluid motion, he lobbed it away. Then he tackled me as the explosion shook the air around us. I lay with my face in the dirt, struggling to breathe with at least 300 pounds on top of me, wishing I never had to get up again. As the waves of explosion passed over us, we cowered down behind the wall of sandbags. Safe. All those years I'd spent wondering how I would act under fire. All the fantasies of how brave I'd be when facing the forces of the Antichrist. Everything came rushing back to me. I may have aced the homework, but I failed the big test. I was a coward, weak when it truly mattered. I had been so scared I had a panic attack. I was going to be Jessica Lynch after all. I was dragged to my feet and shuffled out of the grenade nest. Drill Sergeant McCoy yelling in my ear the entire walk to the bleachers. How could you be so stupid? What the fuck happened? There's no way you'll ever be an officer. I sure as hell hope you'll never go to war. You will get everyone killed. Remember Jessica, damn Lynch? I sat in stunned silence for the rest of the day, watching everybody else go through the drill. Nobody else hesitated. Nobody paused. Only me. I tried looking at my photos, but there were no comfort. Suddenly, my parents' faces showed only disappointment in my life choices, my failure. My husband laughed at me. Even my secret lockbox remained closed. You can get signed copies of Uncultured attached here, or listen to me read it to you anywhere you get your audiobooks.